Gregor McLennan is speaking to us again in Bagua, where the massacre took place. Can you explain why people were protesting there this weekend?
People have been protesting against a government and government policy that ignores indigenous peoples, that sees the Amazon as being unproductive and sees indigenous people as essentially a waste of space. What the government wants to do is open up the Amazon to private investment. They see the future of development there to be biofuel plantations, oil drilling, mining, forestry, and large corporate investments, and indigenous people are just getting in the way. So what the government did when it was given powers in the context of the free trade agreement was issue a series of laws that never went through Congress, that were never consulted with indigenous people, that basically restructure land rights, take away land from indigenous people, and allow rainforests to be reclassified as agricultural land, basically opening legal loopholes for biofuel companies to move in with plantations, for oil companies and mining companies to be able to work in the area without the troublesome part of having to negotiate or speak to the local communities before using their lands.
Gregor McLennan, can you explain how the U.S.-Peru free trade agreement fits into all of this? I remember during one of the debates, then Senator Obama, running for president, said he was not for the Colombia free trade agreement because of the killing of unionists, but he did see the Peruvian-U.S. Free trade agreement as a model.
Unfortunately, the process of the implementation of this free trade agreement, the president was given executive powers to pass laws to implement the free trade agreement. Using that excuse, the government passed these laws that take away indigenous rights and create a threat to the Amazon rainforest. And the government here has been standing up and saying that it can't repeal the laws because they're necessary for the free trade agreement and the development of Peru, and they're positioning the indigenous people as being against free trade and development, and using the free trade agreement as an excuse for passing these laws that undermined the indigenous rights.
Many of the newspapers in Peru, they're not mentioning the indigenous killed, the indigenous people who are killed. They're just talking about the police who are killed. How is information getting out to the rest of Peru?
Unfortunately, everyone here is furious with the media. There are a lot of upset people in the region coming there as visiting Boa Chica as foreign press yesterday. People were gathering around our car, very angry, shouting because we're wondering why the media is not covering the indigenous deaths. What we're seeing appears to be a government manipulation, trying to present this as all about dead policemen and presenting the indigenous people as savage, as barbaric. What is very notable here, nobody here in the local towns, there are many local townspeople here, is afraid of the indigenous, and nobody has seen any indigenous people with guns. Everyone here is very afraid of the police. They're very afraid of the government. People are afraid to speak because they're seeing the huge manipulation of information, and they're worried what will happen to them when they recount what happened and the message starts to get out.
And finally, Alberto Pizango, who we just heard and watched on this broadcast, leader of the National Indigenous Organization, the Peruvian Jungle Interethnic Development Association, in hiding right now after a judge ordered his arrest Saturday on charges of sedition and for allegedly inciting violence.
Well, the government hasn't appeared to understand this movement. It hasn't been a political movement. It has been a very much autonomous movement of thousands of indigenous people across the Amazon from dozens of different ethnic groups, all coming together under the common complaints that they have. And the indigenous leaders, rather than inciting these people, have been trying to keep them organized and trying to keep them focused and trying to maintain the peace. Unfortunately, Alberto has been held up as a kind of scapegoat, as supposedly the inciter, the violent. When with him and other leaders I've spoken to, I've always seen them as being pleading with local people to maintain calm, to produce these actions peacefully. And I think it's essential for any peaceful solution to be found that these leaders are reinstated, that they're allowed to come back and negotiate on behalf of their people, because they're the only people that I think that can really bring a peaceful solution to this situation.
Gregor McLennan, thank you very much for joining us, speaking to us by Democracy Now! Video stream in the Amazon in Bagua, where the massacre took place this weekend. We'll keep you updated on what is happening in Peru through the week. Peruvian indigenous leader Alberto Pizango has been granted asylum in Nicaragua after an arrest warrant was issued in his name on charges of sedition, conspiracy, and rebellion following clashes between Amazonian Indians and Peruvian riot police this weekend. He'd sought refuge in the Nicaraguan embassy in the Peruvian capital of Lima Tuesday. Pizango's organization, ADICEP, or the Inter-Ethnic Development Association of the Peruvian Amazon, brings together Amazonian Indian interests from across the country and has fought peacefully to preserve the forests for several years. New laws pushed through by the Peruvian president, Alan Garcia, would parcel up the Amazon rainforest into blocks for commercial exploitation by oil logging and mining interests. Pizango's wife, Sonia Huenhapi, said on Wednesday she was nervous about what President Garcia could do to her husband.
Yo tengo miedo que le haga algo mi esposo.
I'm scared about what Alan Garcia is going to do with my husband. He's defending his rights, and Garcia says he's guilty of everything. He's not guilty of anything.
Another indigenous leader in Peru, Vladimiro Tapayuri Mirani, the president of the Amazon Indigenous Committee, said the struggle could only continue and called for an autonomous Amazon state.
Alan Garcia has violated the rights of the Amazon peoples, implementing anti-Amazon laws without consulting us. Now indigenous leaders like Alberto Pizango are being persecuted. The struggle does not end when the law is overturned, but when the Amazon is free. We want regional autonomy, an Amazon state. The people have finally realized that capitalism has been hurting our development for many years.
Last week, Peruvian President Alan Garcia warned that indigenous opposition to his development plans was, quote, a serious mistake.
These people are not first-class citizens. 40,000 natives think they can tell 28 million Peruvians they don't have the right to come around here? There's no way. That's a serious mistake, and whoever thinks that way will lead us into irrationality in a backward, primitive state.
En el pasado. El país entero está pidiendo que haya orden, energía, acción del Estado.
The entire country is asking for order, energy, and action from the government within reasonable limits and the authority of the law. That's what government's going to do, and any unfortunate incident is entirely the responsibility of these pseudo-leaders, pseudo-natives who are instigating the most poor of people to take illegal and violent action.
Que tomen acciones que son ilegales y violentas.
ペルー先住民の指導者ピサンゴ氏はこう言いました。先住民も開発は求めています。すべてを拒むわけではない。法に沿ったものなら良いのです。